Hi there. The second Thursday in Lent, the theme of the book, Phoenix in the Ashes, is the theme of suffering and why good people suffer. When I think about good people suffering in the Bible, I don't know who comes first to mind to you, but Job comes to mind for me. And we think about Job, he was the wealthiest man in Ur. He had thousands of cattle and servants and 10 children. He was blessed and he was living a godly life. He was living such a godly life that even when his sons had feast, Job would offer a burnt offering after each of their feasts, just in case they sinned during their feast. So he's very conscious about loving God and living a sinless life. Well, the devil came to God one time and said, let me test Job. Let me see if I can make him suffer enough that he will raise his fist in the air and curse you to your face. And God said, okay, you do what you can. You can do that, but do not take his life. So on the first day of Job's suffering, the Sabaeans and the Chaldeans attacked his property and took all of his oxen, donkeys, and camels, and then killed some of his servants. And then a wind swept from the desert and buried the house in which his children were having a feast, and all 10 of his children died. So after that was one day. That was the first day. And then Job takes off his robe and he shaves his head and he worships. He said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. So he's still praising God. Well, the devil then afflicts him with a flesh-eating disease like leprosy. And he sits in this heap of ashes and he's scraping his wounds with some pottery. And his wife says, why don't you just curse God and then die? And Job says, you're such a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble? So he still has faith. So then 3 friends of Job's come to comfort him, and they sit with him for a week and not say anything, which is a good thing. But then after a week, they start talking. And they all say, Job, it must be because you've sinned. This is the Jewish law. You've sinned, or your parents have sinned, and that there must be sin in your life. And so Job didn't buy this. And he said, I desire to speak to the Almighty and argue my case with God. So he does have a conversation with God. And then God reminds Job of his deity, his authority, his power over creation, his wisdom, his omnipresence, his understanding, his supremacy. And Job's response to this is, I know that you can do all things and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. So Job was then blessed by God, and God restored all of his fortunes. He had 10 more children and lived 140 more years, and he had twice the cattle and even kept the same wife. So what do we learn from God's suffering? And this is coming out of Christianity.com. Suffering is a way for God to display his power and glory. When we think in the Bible about the woman who touched Jesus' cloak, became healed, as she had been hemorrhaging for years, and the blind man whom Jesus put the clay on his eyes and he was able to see. So we can see God's power through the suffering of others. And then the second reason is suffering can be a result of God's love. Job didn't know this, but God had a purpose and a plan for him. So it can be a result of God's love. And to quote John Piper, who is a current day theologian, suffering is not dispensed willy-nilly among the people of God. It is apportioned to us as individually designed expert therapy by the loving hand of our great physician. And its aim is that our faith may be refined, our holiness may be enlarged, our soul may be saved, and our God might be glorified. Blessings, and see you next week.